Hello, as I'm sure you already know, my name is Alfred Adler. I was born on February 7th, 1870, in a suburb of Vienna, Austria. I was the second of 7 children. Though my parents were pretty wealthy, I can't say that I had the best childhood. In fact, I was sick for most of it. First I developed rickets, and I couldn't walk until I was 4. Then, just when everyone thought that it was all better, I developed a bad case of pneumonia, and I almost died. In fact, I even remember hearing the doctor tell my father that I wasn't going to live. And at that moment, I decided that if I lived and proved them wrong, I would go on to become a doctor myself. And I did. Well, for a little bit. Anyways, so when I finally did get better, I went on to live a pretty normal childhood. For everyone else's standards, at least. But to be honest, compared to my older brother, I was pretty ugly. I mean, everybody loved him. He was the model child, everyone's favorite. Me, on the other hand, well, I was sick half the time. Not to mention weak and ugly. That, my friends, is the perfect example of middle child problems. Anywho, like I said earlier, I decided I wanted to become a doctor at a pretty early age. So I decided to stick with that and went to school to become one. I graduated from the University of Vienna in 1895 and became an ophthalmologist. But I decided I didn't like that very much. So I instead started practicing general medicine. But I didn't really like that much either. But before I get to that, let me tell you about my wife, Raisa. I met her in school and married her soon after in 1897. And let me tell you, she was a spicy little firecracker. All the other doctors' wives were quiet and spent all day in the house, but not my woman, no. Not only was she emancipated and all about speaking out about equal rights, but she was a radical and a socialist and friends with some pretty radical people, like Leon Trotsky, the leader of the Red Army. I wasn't so much into these political matters, but over time I think I started to grow fond of some of these ideas that talked about social betterment. Which brings me to the topic that I am sure you are all eager to hear, my growing interest in psychology. I started reading this book, Interpretation of Dreams, by a man named Sigmund Freud, and I was absolutely captivated. I started reading more of his studies, and I was greatly impressed by his early work. I was soon invited to join a group of men who met with Freud to talk about psychoanalytic issues. It wasn't long before Freud appointed me as president of what was then named the Psychoanalytic Society. In the beginning, everyone seemed to be getting along just fine. And by fine, I mean that everyone simply agreed with whatever Freud said. But soon, everyone started to argue about hidden motives and tried to interpret everyone's behaviors. But really, what do you expect from a group of psychoanalysts? I started to think more critically about these ideas, and I began to develop some ideas of my own. Though I tried expressing these new theories to the society, they began criticizing me for opposing Freud's views. Freud even started talking behind my back and calling me neurotic and a danger to psychoanalysis. But honestly, Freud, not everything is about sex. But Freud started to take these things way too personally, and so I finally decided to leave. And naturally, I went on to create my own group, the Society for Individual Psychology. I even took some members of Freud's group with me. I became known as the founder of individual psychology, which stresses the importance of viewing the individual as he or she relates to society. Instead of humans being primarily motivated by sexual urges and behaviors that are controlled by the unconscious, like somebody had once theorized, my theory explains how humans are motivated by feelings of inferiority, which typically develop from physical deficiencies, low self-esteem, ugliness, or those who are overly pampered, like only children. These feelings then cause people to strive for success and superiority, not to be confused with striving for power. No, superiority is all about overcoming and growing as a person. In particular, striving for superiority should involve social relatedness, because healthy individuals are motivated by social relatedness, and those with a well-developed social interests will contribute to the common welfare in order to overcome their feelings of inferiority. Though I have many other popular theories, such as my musings on birth order and the aggression drive, social interest and inferiority in particular have had a large impact on the field of psychology. In fact, I would dare to say that my ideas have made their way into many modern-day theories, so much so that they are just considered to be a part of general psychology, rather than attributed to my work alone. But even though I don't really get any credit for this, I'm not mad. I'm just happy I could contribute to the betterment of society. In fact, that's what I've been concerned about all along. Unlike Freud, who didn't care too much for the well-being of his clients, I really did want to help improve their lives. And that's why I went out of my way to help populations who are often disregarded, like the poor and young children. I even opened the first child guidance center in order to bring mental health concepts into the schools. You guys have me to thank for that. Anyways, considering I've been resting for the last 79 years, I'm really quite tired now, so I must go. But thank you so much for your time.